Hi everybody, just waiting for Bonnie to jump on. We're getting everything sorted. Wow, look at all these people. All right. Hello, here she is. It's all happening. It's all happening.
Hi.
Hello. We're
Oh, yeah.
here.
We're here. We did it. We're
We're here.
live.
We did it. We are live. Hi,
I
Bonnie.
finally got dressed out of my.
We're dressed. We're we're doing this.
We're doing it. We're live. I guess we should wait till people come on, right?
I think so. Hello.
Hi.
Lovely to see you. Look, all these people joining already. I love this.
So I'm in
Bonnie,
to give context. I'm in.
yeah. So tell everybody where you are for now before we get into it.
So I'm in Los Angeles,
Mm-hmm.
and it's 1 p.m. here, and I guess you are. Where are you?
I'm in New Zealand, and it is 9 a.m.
Nice.
And we are on lockdown as you are, which is what we're going to be talking about a little bit today. So
for sure, yeah. I've been indoors for now. I've just counted. I think it's 13 days.
13 days and going strong. Yeah.
Going strong. As we will learn, this is something that I find I'm not bad in solitude.
No, and this is why I wanted to talk with you, because I'm terrible in solitude. I am a raging extrovert, as you know well. And I admire your self-discipline and the tools that I know you already use for staying motivated and working alone. And so that's what we're going to talk about today a little bit. And we've had so many questions come in, which I want to get into as well.
Yeah.
So
and then maybe as well, I guess, if there's any questions that pop up from people we could answer them.
Absolutely.
Too.
Absolutely.
Also excited. It was nice to see. I know a few people have said where they're tuning in from. That's cool.
I know I'm seeing people from Argentina or the Netherlands.
Or Turkey as well.
Yeah. Where are you guys from? Tell us in the chat where you're calling from.
Because we better wait. It's not yet 1:15, right?
It's not even yet 1:15, and there's already so many people. This is amazing. I love Bonnie's hair as well. Isn't it great?
I just watched it. I really went for it for our interview.
Oh, from Poland. Hello, England, Emily.
Melbourne.
Hungary.
Ooh,
Argentina.
Cool.
Illinois. We've got people everywhere. Canada.
Georgia.
London. Oh, I've got Lucy from New Zealand. Amazing. Lots of people from Argentina, Istanbul.
Chile.
Very cool. And tell us as well as Greece. Are you guys having a good day? Are you inside as well?
Yeah, we want to hear from you. How are you feeling?
Yeah, tell us how you're doing. Hi, Amber. Romania.
Cool.
India.
Berlin.
So it's right on 9:15. So before we get into it, we want to know how you're feeling. Is everybody Brazil? This is amazing. Are you guys feeling good? Are you stressed? Are you we're still getting locations. Belgium. All right, so I mean everybody's from New Zealand again. So I'm assuming that everybody's feeling good because they're very enthused about the chat, which I love. And it is 9:15. We are going to kick off properly, officially. So welcome everybody. This is the first Instagram live that I have ever done personally. Bonnie, have you done this before?
Do you know the only time I did an Instagram live wasn't an interview, but it was when I was at the Coca-Cola headquarters with Greenpeace, and I did a kind of live feed of how it was going. So we were entering the building and handing in this petition, and then I was came back onto the live when I came out to sort of touch base with how it went. So that was my own experience, and that was really at the beginning of live, the option. Yeah, but it's pretty cool that it's now this new. It feels like the new television program that people are tuning in. Yeah,
this is Bonnie TV right now.
Yeah, welcome. Channel.
Mm. Bonnie OK Real Amy TV.
Yeah,
It is.
yeah. Just
Um,
any number on the TV will this will come up.
So, as we said before, I'm in New Zealand. You're in LA,
Yeah.
and you've been inside for the people who've just joined. Tell us how long you've been inside.
Yeah. So the last time I went to like I guess more public place that wasn't a necessity, as in like a supermarket or a grocery store, was 13 days ago. And since then, I have been twice in 13 days to the grocery store. So it's been interesting. It's suddenly, and there's so many things that are showing up for how grateful I am to be and have a home to be in that feels comfortable and safe. And also that I have tools at hand that I've subconsciously been kind of building, and also that, touch wood, right now I'm healthy. And honestly, like, the internet has been saving the day, just in connectivity to people, and making sure I don't isolate myself. But it's an interesting time. It's this unknown, and it like challenges and your freedom that you're so used to having.
And how are you feeling? How are you coping?
Do you know what? It's like so up and down. Like, this week seems to be okay. Last week my week started okay, and then the end just like totally crashed. Like, I just, it's really hard to choose not to kind of welcome in news, through whether that's friends texting you news, articles, like Instagram. You're just bombarded with it, and you kind of begin to be unable to differentiate between like what's your genuine worry that's like yours and what's like a collective, just like general anxiety and worry. So I've been trying to like honor that and be just like gentle. I really made sure my weekend was like fully a weekend. Like, I really tried to like not look at my phone unless it was, texts that were fun, not like emails and work stuff. And it really helped my Monday feel like I was excited to start the week. And it gave me, because otherwise soon, like, someone could tell me it was Friday today and I'd be like, okay. Yeah.
I think what you mentioned just then about really paying attention to what you absorb as somebody else's stress or as a news stress versus what you are actually feeling inside. I think that's something that we all should take note of, and being able to differentiate, what am I going to take on and what am I going to absorb during this time, because we're all having to work particularly hard at restoring that inner sense of that kind of sanctum and that peace. And so being really careful about what you let in.
Yeah, I think it's being careful about what you let in, which is like, I know one of the things we're going to talk about, which is like boundaries, I think. But I think there's also this like what's difficult, I think, specifically about this time, that's even harder to understand what's a collective feeling and what's yours and what you can realistically control, is that there's so much like, in order for us to sort of like move through this, we're all actually being genuinely asked to take action, which is to stay at home and not put other people at risk. And so that actually is already asking us something to do for the collective. So, and it's sad and upsetting that it's taken a lot of governments, including this government here and where I'm from in the UK, too long to sort of like really take that seriously. So of course you're going to get involved in the collective, because it genuinely, like, each of our actions actually matter. But then I think what's important and why it's important to just like really try and listen to what your worries are is because you want to be putting yourself in the best possible position in terms of your mental health, your physical health, so you can be there for people who maybe need you. And I think that's what's really important in that, like, saying of like, put your, in an airplane,
your mask on first
before helping others. And I do think that is something, it's like, it's okay to check in with yourself first before checking in with other people. And I think to give yourself allow yourself to do that, and don't think it's indulgent or selfish. It like needs to be done, otherwise you're not really going to be the most helpful person you can be. No,
absolutely. So tell us what you're working on right now and how your working practices have changed, or have they, you know, maybe they haven't. As we said earlier, you have been working at home,
Yeah.
and you are used to this kind of solitary
Yeah.
practice. So tell us about what you're working on and how things have changed for you.
So I'm currently working on a few different projects. Some of them really do require like physicality of production for them to happen, like not right now, but in a few months, hopefully, which is my feature film that I've been, you know, working on for like a really long time. And I thought this year would be the year that we would shoot it. But honestly, like, I think I've got to be okay with the fact that that could not happen, because we really don't know what is to come and like when I'm ever going to be able to get on a physical set again. So that's kind of there. It's always there. And, you know, things are never finished. Like, there's always work to be doing and more thought. And I've found this time, because the noise of having to be anywhere and those like moment to moment things have just like, they don't exist. It's enabled me to have a bit more quiet to like go deeper into my projects that maybe I wouldn't otherwise have. And then two other projects I'm working on are essentially basically books, two very separate projects, that really there's no better time than now really to be focused on those things. So I'm very much like continuing honestly with the things I was already doing, but I think I have more space to go a bit deeper with those writing projects. And I think we're all like slowing down and really thinking like, you know, the speed in which we produce things, content, create things, tell stories. Like, I think we're finally slowing down, and because things have actually had to be stopped or postponed, I think people have like, maybe you can take this time to realign with like, okay, what's my purpose here? And like, why am I doing this, and the integrity around it. Now, I obviously understand that's a huge luxury for me, that my work is about, you know, something slightly more existential, I guess, than so many other jobs. So it's also been a time for me to realize like we're all just living very, very different lives. And perspective is really important to find like then compassion and empathy and understanding on the other side of it.
Tell us about your routine. What is a day in the life of Bonnie in quarantine?
The day in the life. So I'm also currently fostering this little puppy. So she's like up all the time, and her name is Ginny, which I think everyone will find pretty hilarious.
So it's
like why I was obviously drawn to her.
So Bonnie
her brother
has two dogs. Well,
two dogs. Well, Billy Blue, who's my dog, and I adopted him like over a year ago. And then I'm currently fostering a dog called Ginny. And she had a brother and sister called Harry and Hermione, who got adopted together, and poor little Ginny was left. So
how could you not take Ginny in?
I know. And I wish I could do two dogs, but it's a lot. But my friends are adopting her, so she's always going to be around. Pretty cool.
Love it.
But so I'll wake up with them. This morning I went for a walk really early, because I just know that even though obviously we're all meant to be inside, I need to take them for a walk. And I did that at 6:30 a.m. this morning, just because I was up and I thought I would see the least amount of people, and I did. And then I came home. I actually baked banana bread in the morning. Just something I do in about 5 minutes, because
why not?
Baking my way through this experience. And then put that in the oven, did my poetry reading. I've been doing this thing on Instagram stories, where I've been reading a poem every morning, which has been fun. It's been
so nice. I watch them every day, and it brightens my day. And you've also had a few other people do them as well. You've kind of looped in this community of poetry readers, which is so lovely and beautiful. Everybody should be watching Bonnie doing poetry readings. Make your day better.
And I've also made a highlights thing if you want to watch all the ones from the beginning on my page. And it was something that it's funny, like even though obviously my first job was acting, and I'm on the camera now, like being in front of a camera is not, I've figured out, my most comfortable place. So the poetry was going to be something, and started as something that's just for me. And it's been an interesting thing deciding to share that, because also we're all at home, and we all, you know, it's fun to, you know, connect with people and offer something. at this time where like I don't, you know, I don't know what else I can offer really, and I think it's just about like all showing up. So that's me, my little showing up.
Yeah.
And so I did that. Then I had my breakfast, and then I had a work call, and then I answered a bunch of emails for a non-profit, but as like a virtual experience. So it's like directly like an experience of, rather than like a fundraising dinner, it would be like a 20-minute sort of like slot on Instagram live for a non-profit. And how do you like entertain people, celebrate the people we're trying to celebrate from, who are like on the front lines of this topic. Yeah.
And when you are going through your day, as you've just outlined, and you find yourself kind of procrastinating or straying from, I think something that a lot of us struggle with at home is there's always other distractions. So I can put the washing on, or I can bake more banana bread instead of answering that email. So how do you stay disciplined?
You know, it's hard. Like there are days for sure when I feel like I'm just completely cannot focus. And I have this thing that I always like to do, which is I call it like an input or an output day. So like an output day could be when I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm doing things, I'm writing it down. Like I'm getting somewhere with my output of either these books that I'm trying to write and the ideas that are coming from them, or whether or not that's just like I'm actually doing really well at just answering emails and doing things that I don't usually love to do. And then other days where I'm like really hitting a wall and I just cannot, it's almost just a waste of my time if I keep doing something that I'm clearly not wanting to do. So I call that input day, and that's when I sort of read around the subject that I'm trying to talk about, or watch a film about it, or TV. I mean, also my day can be split in half in that sense. It doesn't have to be like one or the other, but
I love that, input days and output days, or having those chunks.
Yeah, exactly. Because I do think, you know, if you're inherently working in something that's like creative, although I do like agree with that quote that creativity in an art like has to find you working. You know, it can't just like, it's not just going to come like some divine moment of inspiration. But I do think you can't force it and kind of assume that it's just going to like come, and it needs like subconscious kind of incubation for work, for like ideas to come through.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people assume that inspiration just hits you when you're walking down the street, but what I found, and what I've heard a lot of people talk about is who are doing great things with their life, is that inspiration actually comes from doing the work, and that creativity begets creativity. And
I
the
also
more
think
you
another thing in this time as well is maybe, you know, actually setting hourly by hourly like goals. I mean, I'm someone who's like obsessed with lists and list making.
do you write your lists, or do you have them on the computer?
Mixture. I do love, like, I've never in my life not had like a notebook, pen and paper notebook. Like I'm not someone who's like totally computer. So it's a mixture. Like most of the time, honestly, it's on my notebook, and on my phone is more things that were like stuff that I had to remember whilst I was out, which isn't really happening right now. So I like to do notes of like figuring out, okay, I'm going to allot this many hours to do this. I mean, granted, obviously, sometimes I can write the list and not even stick to it, but at least I can like see in front of me like what I'd like to get done. And I've also been doing a thing like deciding at like 6 p.m. to call a friend at the end of the day in these last 2 weeks, because it's like a date that we stick to as though we were meeting for, you know, out and about. And it means that I actually like work harder in the day because I have something to look forward to at the end.
Yeah. No, that's a really lovely idea, having a scheduled time to talk to different people and connect with them. We had a lot of questions come in, and one of them, there are a few that stuck with me. One of which was remedies for an anxious heart. So something that we talked about a little bit before we jumped on this call, when we were talking about subjects and topics, was how does the sense of worry and the sense of anxiety fit into this new routine that we're establishing for ourselves? And I thought that was a really nice way to put it, remedies for an anxious heart. So tell us a little bit about how you're mitigating that sense of anxiety or that worry, and what you kind of do with it when it arises.
Yeah, I would say I feel like there's so many different types of anxiety, and I think, you know, it's either the kind of like anxiousness that you can get from stress or the anxiousness you can get from feeling overwhelmed. I would say the feeling of overwhelmed is the most like one I can really connect with, because I do think generally, even sort of outside of what we're currently going through, I do get anxious from being overwhelmed, whether or not like I expect too much of myself in that day, or whether I just put too much on my plate and I'm not setting good enough boundaries so that I feel calmer and more able and like in control. So I do think, you know, one remedy for the anxiety at this point is like, you know, it's okay to be like operating at like half speed or slower speed. Like things might just take longer. We also don't need to suddenly use this time to like do this epic piece of work, or like get fit in the way we want to do, or like perfect that one recipe. You know, we don't need to do all these like big goals we've always had, because I think it's great if you do, but I think like setting yourself up for that, like I saw myself do that and I was like, okay, whoa, you're not gonna suddenly, you know, make some epic achievement. But another practice that I've been sort of doing even more than or like relying on, I guess, more than ever, is my meditation practice, which I have done for like the last 4 or 5 years. Vedic meditation, which is the same as like transcendental meditation, or just like breathing exercise, just like actually carving out that time to yeah, so a meditation practice, breathing exercises. I mean, I really do find like stretching and exercise for my mental health has always been a huge help for me. And that can literally be like foolishly dancing around your house for 30 minutes. It doesn't need to be some like high intensity workout. You know, I think there is something for everyone, and there's clearly a lot of offerings that are happening. So I'd say like moving my body and making sure like I don't stagnate, and like the anxiety doesn't get like trapped in some part of my body, which can also help.
Yeah, that's a nice way to look at it.
And breathing. And then just like knowing how to like self-soothe yourself, like just knowing things that you like to do, whether or not that's like, you know, watching TV, reading that book, like chatting to your friend for a few hours, like drawing, just like things that are just soothing, or you know, turning your phone off or on, you know, for an hour, or like not looking at it when you first, I mean, I don't look at my phone when I first wake up, and that isn't really because of I have much self-control. It's more just the fact that like I always go and walk my dog the minute I wake up, so I don't look at my phone when I'm walking him. And I find like that hugely must be helpful.
That's really great self-control though, that you're not scrolling through your phone.
I know.
I'm gonna see
unless
if I can.
It's you, Amy. Unless it's you.
Unless it's me, and then
then I'll pick up.
I'm on emergency dial. I'm gonna see what people are asking in the comments.
Yeah.
Oh, you've got so many people who just love you so much. Okay, so a lot of questions are revolving around positivity. So I think, as you know, we've been talking about how to establish self-discipline and some of the tools that you have been using. So meditation and breathing and not looking at your phone, and you've told us about your routine. So talk us through your strategies for remaining positive when there is so much uncertainty.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? I find this like something that I've come to a head with or learned about during even my like advocacy stuff around the environment, because, you know, there is obviously the science and the facts are there. This is where we are heading with our climate. Yet there is so much uncertainty to like how the world is going to react, or how governments are really going to like wake up and protect us. So I've found a lot of the similar things have shown up for me in that like frustration that you can get because you just don't know, and you think it's, you know, I am so kind of passionate about the environment and realizing that like the devastation that will cause is as much as this, and it will not know any boundaries of demographic, language, country, in the sense that like we all live on the planet, and it will all, there's a kind of essentially what I'm saying is I easily can get overwhelmed with the kind of doom essentially of things. And inherently that is something outside of my advocacy work that I'm really interested in my stories. And I don't know whether that's like bleak and depressing of my kind of character. But I'm just really interested, and I'm drawn to that like darkness and how those kind of experiences, like what we're experiencing now, can like actually like change us because we suddenly have to show up. I don't even know if I'm answering your question, but what I'm saying is I think it's a really interesting time to just listen and see like how you're showing up and like what scares you, and maybe like what tools you think you're like, oh, I'm pretty good at this, or oh, that's a weakness of mine, I'm not very good at that.
I think that what I'm hearing from you is maybe being curious about your pain, or being curious about, you know, this is happening. How does this make me feel? Why, you know, looking at the different versions of anxiety that arise from devastating events like this, and saying, well, you know, is it a lack of control that I'm most scared of? And leaning into perhaps, you know, why nature is reclaiming itself now and kind of lashing back at us. So no, I think you definitely answered the question. It's looking at things with interest as opposed to anger.
Yeah, and exactly. And a part of that is being like vulnerable with yourself and like admitting to things that maybe you don't like or about yourself, or certain ways you react. Sometimes you can be like, oh, I didn't like that, or I wish I had seen that in a more like open perspective. But like you're always learning in terms of, I think, again, like this time has definitely been just, even amongst my friends, I think we've all been sort of experiencing this in a collective and a separate way, because we're all just inherently different. And I think that's been just really nice to recognize and honor within one another. Like my experience is going to be different to someone who, you know, works in an office and is used to being around hundreds of people every day. Like we're just going to all be experiencing this differently, which again just shows that like there's the kind of how we're all so different, yet we're all globally like going through this thing right now. It's kind of fascinating from like a you know, kind of analytical perspective.
It's been the biggest equalizer, hasn't it? We've all
and
come.
you know, this, you know, the degrees of separation gets real, and you learn people who have either you know had coronavirus, or you know they have members or people that you know that are in the hospital, and it's suddenly like suddenly everything isn't so global, you know, it becomes very like close.
Something that was also coming up in the questions that I'm seeing pop up, how is this going to impact the environment? I mean, I know you can't answer that, none of us can, but how do you see, or I guess what do you, as opposed to, you know, having a crystal ball, how do you hope this will heal the environment, and how do you think it will impact people's ways of living when it all...
I guess people have, you know, we've all become so, like the world has become so global in the sense that like, you know, travel, which is obviously, you know, very damaging, is, you know, maybe in the same sense that I've probably taken it for granted. Like certain, you know, jobs and work that I had coming up have all been postponed because they had travel and because they were, you know, physical showing up to things. So suddenly, you know, I really depend on travel as a way that I can be mobile and kind of do my work. So that's a huge lesson, to be like, okay, how do you reimagine things without travel? So it's like, I think it's going to be amazing for people's like creativity and like thinking about new ways around things. Like we wouldn't have probably done this interview if this wasn't happening.
No, I know. We just do this with us. And now we've got an audience, I mean.
And then obviously there's been already loads of spikes in certain graphs of like air pollution and different things. Which I know is obviously important. I think it's a really difficult balance, because yes, it's important to see that, to just show how we can mass mobilize that we kind of need to do for the climate as well. But right now it's obviously happening for something that's really important. And I have experienced people kind of like, how can people be talking about the environment when this is happening, and like this isn't anything to do with it, and like it is all interrelated. I mean, I was reading yesterday a bunch of articles that talk about how, in a way, a lot of these kind of cross-contamination of animal to humans can actually a lot of the time come from deforestation, because you are destroying a habitat where animals have just stayed out of our, in there quite happily on their own in their habitat. We destroy that habitat, and then off they have to disperse everywhere, inherently probably into cities, and then there's a cross-contamination that would never have happened if we allowed them and respected their home. So I think it is all related, but I'm also aware that we have to be sensitive in realizing that, like, it's different too. And like, I think some people are, I don't know. I'm navigating it too. Like, we're all just figuring out our opinion. And knowing that every day it like changes. I don't know about you, but like one thing I learned today could be totally wrong tomorrow.
Yeah. No, I think that's a lesson that we're all there. It's happening in real time, and even our governments, whether you're under decent power or not, there are just so many. It's so rapid, and everybody's trying to keep up as things happen.
And new information. And so again, I think going back to the like discipline of your home life and your work life, I think it's the same with everything. It's just that like forgiveness and gentleness you go through things with, because I don't know, there isn't like a right or wrong, essentially. Which I'm like very bad at doing too. Like, I'm quite used to wanting to decide how I feel about things the whole time.
You're a very patient person, I think.
Thanks.
As a friend, anyway. You inspire me to be more patient. I am not patient at all.
Like, you have become more patient in these years.
Yeah, that's because I have a 2-year-old. Not because of any noble cause.
Also, do you want to tell, because I'm sure some people will be new to OK Real, do you want to say we did an interview together?
So me and Bonnie, the little backstory.
And just a little bit about like what OK Real does and how you kind of
absolutely.
But
so Bonnie and I met years ago in New York, and I was living there at the time, so was she, and it was a true millennial friendship. So we met on Instagram, and so what OK Real is a platform where I interview women, essentially, and it hasn't always been on Instagram Live, but we started out just publishing stories about people who had really interesting lives and really looking at how people define fulfillment for themselves, and then went out to create that. And Bonnie was obviously somebody who lived by that ethos, and she'd had a really interesting background, obviously, with acting. But then once I got to know her and got to learn more about the soul of this woman, we became fast friends. And OK Real as a business grew, and we started doing live events. And so now you can find us at okreal.co, and we have a ton of stories there that it's perfect for reading while you're stuck at home.
Yeah, really. If you want to be inspired by different people's practices and how they got to where they are as well. Like, I think that's all really, I think it's important to like have people that you like what they're doing, and you can like figure out how they got there to sort of inspire your like path to getting like your dream job or your dream like lifestyle.
Totally. And that's what I love to do. So talking and connecting with people who are willing to share their challenges and be vulnerable and open about their stories, and talking through the techniques and strategies that they have used to carve out a life that is on their own terms. And so we've got a mentorship course that's there right now. We're also figuring out how to translate everything that we do in a digital format. And but Bonnie and I have remained friends, obviously, since that first encounter in New York, and we've both moved. Bonnie's moved to LA, and I moved back to New Zealand. It was my birthday yesterday, and we were sadly apart, but we have a tradition where we spend every birthday of mine, we've somehow been in the same city.
In theory, by the way, happy birthday, because in LA it's day.
Thanks. So we're
So
we're doing it. We're doing it
celebrations
right now.
continue. It's like we're together.
Yeah,
Yeah, I do
we
think it's
are.
interesting you say like how talk about fulfillment, because I think in the last like year I've realized that, you know, people are like, oh, are you happy? It's like, what are you doing to make you happy? And I find like happiness is such a like, how do you even quantify like what that feels like? And I think now a more interesting question is like, do you feel fulfilled? Like, are you? And that is so something more that I try and think about, because like does that give me a sense of fulfillment? That I think often, you know, different things can come up, whether or not they're just my own ideas or like outside offers towards me or different things. And I think it's really important to try and have like questions you always ask yourself when things like end up on your lap, in terms of like, will this fulfill me? Will this like challenge me? Have I done this already? Would it be something new? Is it like genuinely like, I don't know, I've just have tried this year to be a bit better on like how I like, it has to tick off so many things before I do it. And
You've created a filter for yourself, essentially.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
You put
and I
everything
can catch
through.
myself making decisions and not answering those questions, and it's then I'm like, that was probably not the right decision.
So if you want to leave people with something today, so we're gonna wrap up shortly. What would you like to leave people with? What's something that they can take home with them today from this talk?
Okay, well, as you're all safely at home, unless you are obviously in a role that is, you know, a necessity or on the front lines, and also just huge thank you to all those people who are doing the jobs that we never celebrate and that we need to celebrate. But I would say in this time, I would just say, really be gentle with yourself and like listen, see things, like try and hear things that are coming up for you in this like quieter time, and like really use it as an opportunity, not necessarily needing to like act on it straight away and make these like new practices necessarily, but just to like listen. Like, it's pretty rare that we slow down to this extent, so maybe just try and like hear what's coming up, sort of reevaluate things that maybe are fulfilling you, aren't fulfilling you, boundaries that you need to set. I would just say,
boundaries.
be gentle.
Write a list of boundaries.
And like, I don't know, and just, that's all really, apart from like preaching too much.
No, it's such great advice. And I think also everybody should be watching, as I said before, Bonnie's poetry readings, because that will make your day. You can add that to your list.
I know I'm adding, so we've got 3 guests a week now reading poems they've either written or ones they chose to read. So yeah.
Love that. Can I read a poem?
Yes, you can.
Not right now. I don't have one.
No, quick.
I'm not that prepared.
But yeah, it's kind of interesting, as we all like, there's so many good things you can tune into that people are like offering right now, and I think they offer great relief and inspiration to people, whether or not it's like, you know, people reading stories for children's bedtime, whether or not it's like people doing live dance classes or like writing workshops or like cooking things. And
Absolutely. Well, Bonnie, it's so nice to speak with you with an audience.
I know. Never.
We should definitely do this more often. And maybe we will. Who knows? We could be quarantined for, you know, the next 6 months for all we know.
Monthly sessions.
Maybe I will be an introvert at the end of it.
You'll join my club. I don't think that's possible.
I don't think that's possible. No. Well, thank you so much. It's been really nice to do this for our first live chat, and we're going to be doing more of these. So
Amy's more live chats.
More live chats.
Thanks to everyone as well for tuning in and listening.
Thank you guys so much. It's been such a pleasure spending my morning with all of you wonderful people. So lots of love, stay safe, wash your hands, be kind to one another, and
stay home.
And we'll see you again maybe.
Yeah.
On another chat. Bye everybody.
Bye.
Bye.